Yo, what's going on, E7 fam? I'm Sue, and in this video, I want to talk about Trial of the Constellations. Specifically, I want to show you how I cleared Perdition for Magnar, Perdition for Akina, and then Nightmare here for our last guy in Harais. I think that's how you say it. But I'm going to go over the clears that I did for the month and show you how I did them. And I also want to just quickly rant about how I don't like this content. I think it's very, very poorly designed, and I know it's a beta, but I would recommend that we all send feedback via Stove to SG to get things to be a bit more palatable. Because as it stands right now, the current state of this content is that it's just Hall of Trials. They just made another Hall of Trials, and it's pretty blatantly obvious because certain fights like Akina here, you basically have to play the characters that were buffed in the patch, like Charles, at least early on. And then characters here like Harais, this fight, you kind of have to play Holiday Euphine, who just got buffed, with an artifact that just got buffed. And so it straight up feels like, hey, oh, in this one right here, right? Magnar, you have to play Tywin. Well, you don't have to play Tywin. We'll get to that in a second. But you are highly encouraged to play Tywin, who is on the balance patch, in order to clear the fight. So it straight up feels like everything that was on the balance patch is specifically for this content. And your originality on how you build teams is severely limited. And I'm going to show you, like I said in this video, how I cleared this stuff. Please, I know people are going to ask me in the comment section. I will put a big disclaimer here on screen in big bold text. Do not ask me for replacements. Like, I don't have Fene. Who can I replace Fene with for this content? The answer is no one. That is kind of how the thing is designed. That is why I hate it. Because there are no really good alternatives, at least for the first month. And when I say at least for the first month, what I mean is, as you can see, there are 4 difficulties here: Hard, Hell, Nightmare, and Perdition. You can only clear one of them per month. So if you decide to burn your one clear on Hard, that's it. You're done. You do not get the other stuff. Like, if you clear Hard first and then come back and clear Nightmare later, you're done. You still don't get anything from Nightmare. So you have to pick your shot. So rather than the fights being designed, let's do Hard, learn the mechanics, move on to Hell, they add something else, okay, what's different, and then make adjustments. It literally incentivizes you to just jump into the deep end of the pool, into Perdition, figure out what kind of nonsense you have to deal with, and if you can't beat it, run away scared and then backtrack to Nightmare and so on and so forth until you get to a spot that you're actually comfortable with. And honestly, I hate it. And now if you go into actually here, one of these on the right hand side, you'll see the Blessing of the Stars. These are like your buffs that help you out here. The constant one is Leo, and you only can, by the way, drop one character into this whole thing. You need to clear, use up one of your monthly clears to get more points to unlock more slots. So basically, you'll come over here, you'll choose a Leo Constellation character. In this case, mine is Navy Captain Landy. You won't be able to use it, but you'll just drop it in here for these fights. And every 800 points, it seems, you get a new bonus. So at 800 points, you'll get increased effectiveness. At 1600, you'll get increased attack of all allies. And nobody so far has gotten the 3rd tier, so I can't confirm if it's 2400. But yeah, basically drop 800 in here to do this. And if, by the way, you ever take a piece of gear off them, because you'll need to move around a lot of gear for this stuff, then you just lose the bonus. And then the second one, Ares here, this one is unique to just Magnar itself. In this case, you get increased effectiveness of ice heroes by 50%. Increases effectiveness of ice elemental heroes cannot exceed 100%. This last sentence is basically saying you can't be 15%. Which doesn't appear to be true. At least for the earth one, the green one. Well, we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, this is the first one. Again, over 800 points on each of these. Now, how Magnar works is essentially he has a moon gauge, I guess that's what we'll call it. The moon gauge will increase over time, and in order to decrease it, you need to hit him with moves that have defense break on it. Once his moon gauge goes to 0%, he becomes defense broken for a limited amount of time. Now you can construct a whole team of defense breakers with like Lulika. I see people use like Lulika, Kisei, Tywin, Brieg. Right? There's like definitely teams you could construct where everyone's on defense break and you could kind of survive. You can't play, by the way, characters like DN or whatever have you, because you can only buff yourself, at least as far as I can tell. But if you build like a whole team of just defense breakers, it might be possible to do it. The easiest way and the most consistent way is to just play Fene and 3 fodder characters. So Fene, you basically just take your Fene from Rift, you change it to attack percentage boots to kind of increase the damage a little bit. You slap it on a damage increasing artifact. Ideally, Victorious Flag. Victorious Flag will allow you to solo with Fene. I'm not on that, right? So you could just play whatever you want here. Damage increasing artifacts. So this one's 20% extra damage to boss monsters. You can play Vic Flag. Vic Flag is probably the best. And that's it. Fene go burr. Fene just solos the whole thing for the most part. The rest of the characters are basically just fodder on things like Super Duper Water Gun Shooter or Card of Small Miracles to increase the damage, Warhorn, whatever you have you. Anything that just gives damage to Fene will work. Now, if you want a more consistent run, you could just jam Tywin in the front, and it's got to be on Holy Sack. He needs 30k HP, probably like 14 to 1500 defense, and then his effectiveness, ideally, you'd want it to be like 120. But you don't necessarily need him. He makes it a lot less RNG. Like if you try to just do 3 fodders in Fene, it's clearable, but from what I've been told, the RNG is pretty extreme. Like maybe 1 in 10 runs, you'll just be able to straight up auto it with Fene. But if you have Tywin, it's pretty consistent on auto the whole way through, at least for me. At least that's how it was for me. So if you want to play Tywin, go for it. I would not recommend dumping any Malagoras into him. It's just not worth it. His exclusive equipment is the one that increases the defense break chance, which, surprise, like they buffed this character to give him a defense break on the S1, and there's the EE that does so. And it's kind of like, okay, well, this is the character that was designed for this. Okay, this is what we're playing. And I could just see them in the future, because this game mode is basically just Hall of Trials, being like, well, the new limited is the thing you need for the rotating content. And I kind of hate that. It just feels... I just don't like the design of it. The whole thing just screams, you need to try the hard thing at first, and you're punished for not clearing the hard thing first, and you just have to play our newest buff characters, or our newest limiteds, or our newest ML5s, and if you don't, there's not really too many other great options for it. Again, just my rant, just my 2 cents on it. Also, you do want him to be faster than Fene. People were saying you want him to be slower than Fene. I found that as long as he's like 170 to 200, if you have like a base speed Fene, works out fine. Again, just try to focus on the bulk and Holy Sack, because he will die throughout this fight. You will need Holy Sack. If it just doesn't proc, you're just not going to do much with him. In which case, then you're just relying on Fene solo, which, again, it works. Anyways, I'm not going to show you guys a full run. I'm just going to cut to the end of my stream segment here in order to keep the video length down. But that's the general gist for this fight.
Hold me till I can breathe no more.
She doesn't strip now.
Give it to me. Paralyze me with your love. This will save.
Maybe we still get there. We have enough time.
I believe in you, Papa. I love you. Stay with
No problem, Stan.
me.
This is a community effort, though. It's not just me.
Till I can breathe no more. Sing. I'll wrap you up too.
Okay, yeah, I was right. The faster Tywin's better. The faster Tywin's better. That's what I thought. So next up, we come to Scion of Frosttide Akina, and the mechanic for this one is essentially twofold. The gauge, the moon gauge for this one, if you get it depleted, she is slowed until she takes like a couple of turns. And the only way to actually reduce the moon gauge and deal any damage really to this boss is with counterattacks. So you just have to play a bunch of characters on counter set in order to succeed on this, except unless the character is somebody like Charles or Violet or Valen that just has built-in counter set, in which case those are going to be your primary damage dealers. Your primary damage dealers are characters that have built-in counterattacks. Violet, Charles, Senya, and then Valen. Like, you got to basically lean on those characters in order to actually deal meaningful damage to this boss and keep it slowed. Now, if it was just counterattack and, you know, deal damage, this would be super free. The problem is that this fight requires you basically to play a lot of barriers and immunity because everything is just a big ass AoE attack that injures and cuts down your healing. So if you don't have immunity to stop the debuffs, then you're gonna make it so that you can't really sustain through a lot of stuff. And then if you don't have the barrier, then you will get injured, and once you get to 50% injury, the pop damage in the final phase just becomes way too much in order for you to survive. Throughout the fight, they will also summon another person for extra attacks that you can't really kill. So Rowana feels like, again, a character that's just a staple. It feels like you can't really do it without, because of how many extra attacks, especially when you get the boss under 40%. Once you get the boss under 40% here for this fight, you can't really soul burn anymore, which, by the way, this is a manual team. You can't really auto this fight. So you won't really have access to too many soul burns anymore underneath 40%. And the boss will feel like it just takes infinite turns. And unless you just counter your way out of it, you basically don't get turns. It's just boss attacks, you counter. Boss goes again, attacks, you counter. Boss goes a third time, attacks, you counter. If that's not enough, just the like watching the animation of your character's counter, right? And then proccing a Rowana passive, if that's not enough for you to sustain through the final like 40% or so, you're not clearing. So that's kind of the gist of it. Now let me show you the stats for everybody so you can see what I'm playing. First up is Rowana. Speed doesn't matter, ER doesn't matter. It has to be Stella Harpa. I tried Wanderer's Potion Vial, it doesn't clear. It has to be Stella Harpa. It's the only way you will consistently remove debuffs, and you want her on counter set because, again, you just have to counter everything in here in this fight. So Rowana as your front line, and the only way you don't play Rowana as your front line, if you come back here at the Virgo constellation, if you beat the green one on Nightmare first, which is what we'll talk about next, right, you will have access to enough points to be able to get this second bonus, which says increases the attack of Thief Heroes of the front row by 50% when counterattacking, and increases the combat radius of all eyes by 20% before decreasing the skill cooldown of skill 3 by 1 turn. So essentially, if you unlock that buff, you could put Urvalin or Green Violet in the front, and it will be significantly easier for you. Right? It'll be so much easier for you if you get that buff. But if you don't, Rowana's got to be the front line. Now, let's talk about Charles. Charles needs to be on Victoria's Flag in order to sustain through the fight because he has really bad base stats and also increases damage. And he needs to be on Destruction Set because Counter Set doesn't do enough damage for you to kill the boss before you hit the Enrage. You need really high DPS on this character. As you can see, 4k attack, 330 crit damage. It's a lot. It's a lot on this character. You need crazy damage in order to actually sustain with him. Or deal enough damage to actually clear the fight, so to speak. Same thing here with Violet. Your inclination is probably going to be lifesteal. Don't do it. Got to play him on Destruction. And the damage afforded to you by something like Violet Talisman makes it a bit better than Moonlight Dreamblade, but play whatever you got that gives dodge chance and damage here in this slot. But Destruction is definitely the way. You absolutely need to use this. You don't even come close on Lifesteal or any other set, so Destruction is pretty much the way to go. And then the final character on the team here is Command Model NIKKE on counter set. She doesn't need to be this fast, but I would recommend at least 200 speed, and then as bulky as you can get her, her damage doesn't really matter, because if she dies, you're in a lot of trouble. Effectus, you would like ideally about like 120. I only have 107 here. The reason why you want Effectus on her is because the only debuff that the boss is affected by is Target. So having Target on your team is a huge deal because it helps with the damage, and early on, when you don't have any bonuses, there's not really going to be any way for you to actually deal meaningful damage. So having Target on the boss at all times is super good. This is also a non-attack skill, which means you can play Glow Wings 21, which gives your team a barrier, which means you won't get injured. So you should prioritize, whenever possible, on Command Model NIKKE, to use S2. If S2 is available, outside of the very first turn of the fight, you should use S2. And the reason why I say don't use it on the first turn of the fight is because the boss is immune to debuffs until they take their very first action. Then you use the S2, right? So that is pretty much it. I should also mention with Violet, do not use Violet's S2 at the start of the fight for the same reason. It'll become clearer once you play it. Don't take extra turns on the first turn. Just have everybody do one singular action and you will be good to go. Now, the other thing that you want to be doing with Command Model NIKKE throughout the fight is if your S2 is off cooldown, you should always soul burn Volley Fire for the immunity unless, again, it is the very first turn of the fight. I should also mention that with Charles, same thing. Going back to Charles real quick. This one. Always, 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 always soul burn Faithful Strike whenever possible. Always soul burn this if you have the ability, except for the very first turn in the fight. That's pretty much how you actually clear this thing. Is you just got to basically keep soul burning it. Your S3s on Charles and NIKKE whenever possible, and you were pretty much good to go. So again, just like with the fire one, I'm just going to show you the ending clip of where I cleared this on stream, so that way you don't have to sit through a massively long video explaining this thing, because this fight takes like 20 something minutes. It's a very long fight. If I put all of the VODs, like all of the full fights here, we'd be here forever. So anyways, check out the ending phase here of the actual fight.
You're not
We take the immunity.
Let's pull a charge. Let me show you our secret weapon.
Okay. Charles, go. Charles, go. Charles, go.
Step back.
Need my help?
Alright. Damage.
My sword will pierce your heart.
Let's just get this over with.
Okay. Boosto.
It's time to draw my sword.
Soul burn. Okay. To determine the victor. Alright, alright. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it, Mr. Krabs. Alright. This could be it.
Who taught you?
I know I'm beautiful.
Alright, we do that. Right.
Look at my sword, not my face.
Alright.
Grateful that you get to fight me.
Gather together.
Take our barrier. Free damage.
I'll help.
Correct your posture. Alright.
Who taught you?
What a hassle.
Are we burned?
Let me make this clear. You're in over your heart.
Ruana. Correct your posture. Yes. Yes. All right. We got it. Holy shit, we got it. Oh, dude. And then finally we come to the third fight here in the series, and this is Horais, Verd Horais, I think that's how you say it. And I'll be real with you, I don't think this one's clearable on Perdition, right? I have gotten to the very end of the fight multiple times, and you just can't clear it. So how this guy works is, he, after every single time him or one of his ads or someone on your team takes a turn, so anyone takes a turn, his moon gauge goes up by 5%. Whenever you land a burn on him, it goes down 15%. When the moon gauge goes to 0%, he takes some amount of damage based on how far you are into the fight. So at the start of the fight, it's 50%, then it scales back to like 30%, then it scales back to 20, and then eventually to like 5%. So basically every time you drain the moon gauge, he takes some amount of damage based on how far you are in the fight. And then it sets the moon gauge after he takes the damage back to 45%. Now, if at any time he gets to his turn and his current remaining HP is higher than the same percentage of anyone else on your team, you wipe. So for example, if he gets to his turn and he has 80% health and my Holiday Euphenia has 75% of her max health, that's it. We're done. GG, game over, man. That's kind of how it works. So it's not quite the same percentage, because sometimes you'll survive at like 5%, even though your percentage is lower, and then damage does ramp up over time. But basically, if you're not fully topped off by the time he gets to his turn, and he does have some amount of health missing, you're super Omega Ultra dead. Now, what that means, because every time you deplete the gauge, it goes back to 45, you need like an insane amount of burns in order to actually do this thing. Like, everybody on your team needs to have a ton of burns. So this is another manual comp. So you'll need like Holiday Euphenia in the front, And she's got to be on either Soul Bad Guy's artifact or Indestructible Gators. And you need to not build her crit so that way you can actually land the burns. And you basically have to prioritize only using the S1 whenever possible, unless there are parts of the fight where the boss hits you with like unbuffable and unhealable for 9 turns, then you cleanse out of it with her S3. But otherwise, she's just spamming S1 the entire time. And you are praying that your artifact procs. If your artifact does not proc, then you're just not getting full value out of the character, and it feels awful. By the way, take a note at how fast all my characters are in this section. You don't need this fast for Nightmare, but I just want to like let you guys know how insane my gear is on my characters for Perdition and how I still could not clear this thing. Holiday Euphine probably only needs like 230 speed if you're going to do it on Nightmare, right? 230 is probably the correct number here. The next character, and this feels like he is a mandatory character for every single clear, is Bihu, because he has a bunch of S1s on his S1 Scorching, and then you have Seal of Capture, which gives you another burn. And if you don't have this, by the way, you don't have Seal of Capture, good luck. Like, that's it. You need this artifact. And you can play Bihu at like 200 speed or better if you're doing Nightmare Raid. But again, look how fast I am for Perdition. Still can't clear. So basically, Bihu and Holiday Euphine are your consistent ways to knock like 30% off the moon gauge every single time. Exclusive equipment here gives the burn. So that way, there are some times where you need the CR push in order to not die. So at least you get some burn value out of it. So that's why he is built the way that he is. This next slot, I have Araminta. You can play Robin here as well. You basically either play, choose your duo. Araminta with Tamarin, or you play like Araminta with Hazel, or you play Robin with Acades, Red Acades, and Red Acades is on Prophetic Candlestick to reduce the cooldowns of her S2, so she can keep spamming S2 on Robin to keep her turn cycling, because Robin's cooldowns are just way too long, and Araminta's cooldowns are just way too long to consistently keep the moon gauge down. So Araminta needs Etika Scepter or Prophetic Candlestick. You basically have to get lucky on proccing one of these artifacts in order to use the S3 here, Fire Pillar, to get multiple burns, right? This is 30% knocked off every couple of turns. Ideally, you don't want to use this for the CR push, right? Because if you end up using this, then that's another 5% you tack on, which means the burns are less effective. So you only want to use this in an emergency. And then unfortunately, her S1 only has a 50% chance to burn, so it's just a coin flip. The character is just blah. It feels so bad. But Robin has longer cooldowns, and her S2 is the only thing that feels really good. So that's why you need Acades. But again, look at my crazy ass stats here. Super fast. You need like 120-ish effectiveness, or roughly would be ideal here. And then for the healer, again, look how fast I am. You don't need to be this fast, right? If you are going to be playing Nightmare, your Robin or your Araminta probably only needs to be like 220, 230, something like that. So you don't need to be this fast, right? And honestly, it's pretty simple at this point. If you're on Nightmare, just spam S1 on Euphine and Bihu. Use S3 when you get hit with debuffs from Holiday Euphine. Use S3 if you think you're going to die because the bosses, you need your characters to cut before the boss on Bihu. Spam whatever burn skill on Robin or Araminta. Keep the team healed up with your healer. If you're on Tamarin, only use idle mode when it's like do or die, because for some reason the boss feels like it's glitched and you randomly just get phased out of idle mode. So like you only really get one move in idle mode before the game is like, oh yeah, cool. You just don't get more turns in idle mode. It also doesn't trigger idle mode dual attack. So Hazel or Acades is probably just going to end up being better in the long run for this. Now, my problem with the fight is that in order to survive, right, to win this fight, you just have to tough it out, right? You basically just survive 9 turns while maintaining his burn stacks. You win the fight. That's how it works. Now, on Nightmare, that's not that bad. You just manage his burns, 9 turns go by, you win, you collect your rewards, awesome. On Perdition, the moon gauge feels so insanely fast in the final 3 turns that I cannot burst it down with any consistency. And Byakko has, been helping as well. I'll show you his team here, like a screenshot of it. He's got it where on Candlestick with the Katie's, he's consistently been knocking down the boss to 1 turn with Robin and resetting her. And even if you do like 5 or 10% of the boss's health, which is like the best that we're able to do under the current circumstances, even if we're fully topped off, we still die. So unless somebody else figures something out by the time I release this video, there's not a good solution for beating it on Perdition. I don't think anyone has beaten it on Perdition. Every person I've talked to, Jinte, Professor Loki, Tristan Wolf, Biako, like all of us like diehard PvE guys, I can't beat it. Maybe Moria E7 can beat it. Like I know he's also another like really good PvE player. I haven't figured it out. Anyways, I'll show you the ending of my nightmare run now. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them down in the comments below. But the one question that I don't want you to ask is who can I replace X character with? Because straight up, this is just a nonsensically difficult game mode that requires oddly specific characters and artifacts. And if you just don't have them, there's very few, if any, replacements. So I already know people are going to ask me, who can I replace Holiday Euphine with? You can't. You can't. The content just requires the character, which is regrettable, and it's why I kind of hate the current state of this this content. And I hope they change it. I would like to see it be reworked to be more interesting. I think it would just be better if I started on hard and then ease myself into the content and kind of learned as I go, instead of being like, yeah, jump into the 10-foot end of the pool and then either sink or swim. It feels really, really bad that way. And I know this is supposed to be content that you ramp up over time. People have been telling me, oh, you're not supposed to clear it the first month. Well, it's in the test period. So this is the first month. This is my first impressions of it. And then next month, yeah, sure, it gets easier. But it rotates also like every 3 months or so. And I don't know if like 3 months or whatever, because it's seasonal. When they rotate it, are they going to change the mechanics? Are the mechanics going to require me to have specific stuff? Right, had to have specific limiteds or ML5s in order to do well. You notice, by the way, they haven't showed us the light or dark ones yet. I think we'd probably lose our minds if these were available, because these probably require like, oh yeah, this one you have to have Specimen Says, and this one you have to have Arbiter Vildred or Spectre Tenebrae, and if you don't, you just don't get to clear it. That would suck. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on this entire thing, because right now I'm not feeling it. It just feels like they just made Hall of Trials again. And if I wanted Hall of Trials, I'd play Hall of Trials. This is not really what I was looking for from new PvE content from Epic 7. So yeah, a little bit disappointing, but hopefully you're able to see how I cleared everything. Hopefully it gets you started on your journey with Trial of Constellations. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week. I'll catch you in the next one. Later now.
Yep. I think I'm going to faint.
Bring it on.
I won't lose. Hold on.
It's important to know one's place.
I'm scared. Go away.
Shall we begin? You must be hot. What are you gonna do?
I'll do my best.
You can't close your eyes.
Cherish the life you have left. Shall we give this a go?
I won't lose.